How much time should a filmmaker expect to put into distribution versus pre-production or production?
Great question. So in my world, in my experience, having made 7 features, it takes me about a year to make the movie. By the time I'm talking from idea to final delivery, that's about a year. So there's about a month or 2 in idea development stage. There's probably 2 to 3 months in financing. There is a month or 2 in pre-production. There is a month or 2 in production. And then there's, I didn't do the math on it, probably about 6 months in post-production and delivery. So that's the production phase. Distribution, minimum, well, distribution's not full-time. Production, what I just described, is full-time. Maybe not development isn't full-time, where you're working on it 100% of the time, but production certainly is, and post-production, if you're doing your own edit, certainly is, right? Distribution is full-time when you're at markets and when you're preparing and everything. There's about, I'm going to say, 4 to 5 months of full-time prep for distribution. Well, mind you, if you've done it many times, you have all your lists all together and you know who your customers are and you're prepping your materials and hopefully your trailer's already made from production. I always cut my trailer first before I cut my movie. And yeah, because you need to have a trailer. You change it as you go along too. But artwork and whatever, presentation materials you want to have. You don't need a ton, you just have some photos and stuff like that. And then you spend, the first 4 to 5 months putting it out to the marketplace, perhaps going to a market, and we'll talk about markets versus festivals in a second, and then, and soliciting it to whoever your lists are. This is self-distribution, by the way. If you're doing through a distributor, then you're putting it out to distributors. And you want to put it out to, I'm going to say 25 to 50 distributors if you can. That seems like a lot, but and you have your short list of, say, top 10 who you really, really care about. And then you put it out to all these other ones. And it's not just American. If you're an American producer, you don't just put them out to American distributors. There's tons of distributors in the UK, Australia, who all speak English and who do worldwide distribution. So the world is a big place now, and you can deal pretty well in any country. But then distribution goes on for, 3 to 4 years. It goes on your whole life, really. As long as you own your film, it's, as long as your asset is in existence and you haven't sold it and it's yours, then you technically can monetize it the rest of your life. That's what they call library rights. You're just hopefully continuing to monetize it. It's not as active and robust generally the second or third time around, after the first year is when most of the sales happen, or the first 12 to 24 months, most of your sales are going to happen if people want to buy it. It takes customers, used to take them like 3 to 4 months to make a decision. Now it takes them like 6 to 8 months. It's amazing. You think, here's a film, watch it. Do you want it or you don't want it? You think that should take an evening, right? It takes a long time. These lead times are a long time. You have to have a lot of patience. But generally within the first 2 years, you're going to have exhausted or your distributor will have exhausted all of the sales contacts and done what I call round 1, made all the rounds, gotten all the answers back, and if it's sold or not. And then after that, again, it's your asset and it never ends.
And deliverables are done by the filmmaker, or if you get a distributor, they will do some of the deliverable work?
So here's the thing. The distributor definitely will do the deliverables, but you will pay them to do the deliverables. Everything the distributor does, you're going to pay for. And not only will you pay for the actual physical deliverable, but you will pay a fee for them to do that because it costs them time and effort to do it. So for instance, let's use dubs, okay? Let's say you have to do language dubs, right? The distributor themselves aren't going to make the language dubs. They don't do that. They don't have in-house dubbing facilities. Maybe 1 or 2 do, but most of them don't, okay? They're going to go to an outside third-party dubbing company, who makes language versioning, and they're going to hire them, and they're going to tell them exactly what they need to do, and then they're going to let them do it, and they're going to pay a fee to them to do it. And the distributor's going to negotiate that fee. and then they're going to pay the fee to them, and then they're going to charge it back to you through the revenue that comes back to your film. But in addition to the fee they pay to the versioning company, they're also going to take a fee for themselves for managing it, maybe an additional 10%, 20%. So let's say there's $100,000 in language dubbing. The distributor might add on another, $15,000 to $20,000 in their labor to manage that process. So the bill you're going to get is $120,000 as opposed to $100,000 if you put it out to the same versioning company yourself. But if you were to do that, then one, you need to know what versioning companies to go to and who to ask, and make sure you do it the proper way and get the right companies on board, because versioning is a very particular thing. And two, you have to have the cash flow, because now the versioning company is going to charge you $100,000 and you need to pay them $100,000 cash. The distributor has the cash; they'll pay the $100,000 on your behalf, but it'll cost you an extra $20,000. But it's often worth it because you don't have the cash.
Are some of these bills from the distributor set against potential profit, or will you actually get a bill in the mail that you're like needing to write a check for?
So it's with a good distribution deal, everything should be recouped against revenue, not profit, revenue. So as revenue comes in, the way most distribution deals work is it's called a waterfall. All right, so revenue comes in. So let me use $100. Make it real simple, okay? $100 comes in the door. If they're working on a 30% fee, then the first $30 goes to them of the 100, to the distributor. All right? Then, if they have costs of, say, $20, then the next $20 comes off of that to pay for their costs. All right? So now they recoup their costs. So now there's $50 left. Then if they have given you, say, a minimum guarantee of $10, right, then they're going to recoup that. So they paid you $10 already, so they're going to take the $10 back. So now they've taken $60, there's $40 left. And then you're going to get that $40. That's how that works.
So probably...
Okay, but I forgot to say. Okay, yeah. Now let's say that they have costs of $70. So they took $80. Let's say $80. So they took 30, because there was versioning, right? So the $100 came in, and they took $30 as their fee, but their costs were actually, call it $90 they spent to make some languaging versions, but there's only $70 less. So they take the 70, but you still owe them $20. They're still out of pocket $20. So the question is, did they send you a bill for $20? And the answer is hopefully not. Hopefully they wait until the next revenue comes in, because that's the way a good distribution deal should have been negotiated. But maybe they do. I mean, filmmakers have told me they've gotten those kind of bills. They shouldn't. It should be against the revenue that's coming in, but sometimes they do.
Is there language that one should look out for to make sure that it's set against potential revenue?
Of course there is. 100% there's language. There's language for everything. And you have to be super particular with your language. I mean, that's why you need somebody who knows what they're doing to make sure your language is proper. And the distributors play games with the language. All lawyers play games with language.
What do you mean by purposely confusing people?
Remember, I said it before, distributors in business to make money. Their job isn't to rip off the next person, but it's to do the best deal that they possibly can. So you need to make sure that your job's to do the best deal you can for yourself. Just, you don't know as much as they do. So make sure you get somebody who does know, so that you can make sure that you address all those issues to your benefit, or at least make them fair, and so they're not skewed in their favor.
Should one be afraid of a short contract?
A short term on the contract?
No, just in terms of like it's only one page, and really one that's more elaborate is actually more beneficial?
No.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
The substantive deal terms, depending on the size of the font, can fit onto one page.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there's about 7 or 8 substantive deal terms, and they generally can fit onto one page. I call those deal memos, or, I mean, that's more or less what we call them, deal memos. And often, I mean, most of my distribution contracts are only 2 pages. And then the last paragraph, the last sentence says, a long form will follow if there's an option for the long form to follow. The long form, which, is 40 to 50 pages, is a lot of legal jargon built up over years and years and years. It's a lot of accounting and termination language, which is super important. But often a deal memo will say, and the rest of the terms per industry standard, per reasonable industry standard. And, sometimes you'll attach an addendum to it. But you need a deal memo at first. The major terms are, how long the deal's going to be. That's the period or the term, the period, right? What the royalty level is going to be, like what their fees, either what their fees going to be, what they're going to take, or how much they're going to give you. Their costs, what their costs are going to be. Are they capped? I put in a performance threshold. Are there performance thresholds? What the territory is going to be, like where they're selling it for. What the rights are. Are you giving them all the rights or just certain rights, just for certain, broadcast or streaming or whatever? Is it exclusive or non-exclusive, and what the language is going to be?
When you say language, you mean language of...
Languages.
Of languages, and who's going to do transcripts or dubbing?
No, it's just what language rights you're giving them, and then you'll figure that all out in costs and everything. Yeah, and then you'd probably put down, okay, you'd probably say who's gonna incur this. And
does a distributor have the right to change the name of the title of the film if they feel that in a certain territory it will do better, or they have
the right if you give them the right.
Okay.
It's your choice. If you want to grant them that right, they'll tell you should grant them because they know better, and that will help market the film better. And in a lot of cases, I would agree with that. But they only have the right if you grant it to them. They don't have any rights other than what you negotiate. And that's why deal memos are very long and complicated, because over the years there's been a lot of stuff negotiated that lawyers tend to put in. We call those boilerplate clauses over and over and over. If this happens, then that happens, then this happens. And it depends who drafted the contract. Generally, a distributor wants to use a contract that they drafted because they trusted and they negotiated it over the years and they built it over the years. They're not too receptive for you bringing in your own distribution contract because it won't be generally as favorable to them, or they have to spend a lot of time reviewing it to make sure that it's fair. And the best is, the Netflix contract. I love Netflix. They're actually super reasonable, believe it or not. They actually care about filmmakers, which you'd be surprised, but they do. But there's no negotiating. I mean, the lawyer said to me on the business affairs person, who's a lawyer on the other side, said, and I said, I'm going to do my own legals because I'm a lawyer and I'm confident that I know what I'm doing. She said, is there anything you'd like to address? And I said, if there was, would it matter? And she said, kind of not.